Good afternoon. I've got the very close to evening slot, and I know some of you are pretty knackered. You've been all over Europe this week, so probably the last thing you want to do is listen to me bleat on about things. So it's a presentation by Rentivo, which is my-ish company with some other people. We provide software services to the vacation rental industry of various nature. I won't go into that in any detail, but we provide a whole range of services. So the presentation today is, I look forward to new marketing opportunities, and as Steve Marlow just said, too many eggs in one basket. So I've got a really interesting question here because I want to highlight something. Everybody's been talking about what we should do, how we should do it, percentages, 70%, Simon said, OTA bookings in Europe. Actually, it's well differentiated between urban markets and traditional markets. So you might see 70% Airbnb bookings in Barcelona, but you don't see 70% Airbnb bookings in Cornwall, for example. So whatever is said has to be taken in context of where you are, what type of properties you have, geographic locations, languages, and all sorts of other stuff. So just a question so I know, how many of you are managers and use an OTA? Come on, just put your hands up if you do it. Okay, right. How many of you are managers and don't use an OTA at all? So I got two guys from the UK here, and no one will have realized this because we've been talking about OTAs non-stop. But these two gentlemen down here don't use an OTA at all, and they got fairly substantial companies and make all their bookings organically. So it's a round of applause for these two guys. And I don't know how many are, Jez, but there must be 30, 40,000 in the UK in the same position in terms of volume of properties.
Yeah, there are some really big companies in the UK that are using OTA, but the majority still try. It's feeding the beast.
Sure. So if you want to know how to do it, speak to Alan and speak to these guys. So this is a future look, and I'm going to explain why I think it's going to be really, really difficult unless something changes. Okay, so I was a manager up till a year ago, so I sat down and drew some, I thought I'd do a Venn diagram with maybe 4 circles about the activity I had to do. And oh my God, it was quite worrying the amount of effort we actually had to put into all these various elements of marketing to get a booking. This is 2018, and it's fairly disparate. There's a lot of stuff going on. You're all doing social, you're all doing emails, you're doing drip campaigns, you're on OTAs, you're cleaning toilets, you're using PMSs, you're complaining your hearts out because the connections don't work, etc. I think by 2025, it's all going to be a lot more consolidated in terms of all the things you're doing, and all the things you're doing are going to be forced through technology to be more seamless. But I think things will change. On this one, I did actually stick Google in because we were thinking about Google about a year ago, how it's going to affect the marketing. I think 2025, Google will be big, OTAs won't be as big, direct traffic will increase for various reasons, and the rest will all be hooked together. In the meantime, outside of the UK, where everybody relies on OTAs, these guys on the right are going to spend a huge amount of money. They are going to change the shape of the industry. We've seen that, and everybody's been talking about upping the quality and making sure that the guest expectations are met, etc. And I think everybody's going to have to do that regardless. So ignoring that, they are forcing change as well. So expect 2 years more of pain. So I read all the news press. We print a load of stuff ourselves, and we do a lot of research. And it's really apparent that the likes of Airbnb, it's not just about the shared space and the experience and now the full accommodation. It's about all the other stuff that can be bolted on for extra revenue. So he who controls the data controls the revenue opportunities. So Airbnb's got 4.5 million properties. I don't know how many bookings they make, but it must be shed loads. every one of those bookings can now have an opportunity to book a restaurant, book a car, book a flight, book anything. And the interesting thing is, it's actually your data that they're using. So this segment, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, I think it's completely dysfunctional. As a manager, I was just running like crazy because of the inventory we had and the location and the amount of competition, and because we'd involved ourselves in things we shouldn't have involved ourselves in at day one, we ended up being committed to OTAs to a certain extent as well. And as that process changed by them, it gave us more pain all the time. But I'm out of that now, so quite happy. So it's dysfunctional, and some of you might recognize these things. Pricing distribution issues. Pretty sure some of you don't actually have the prices on an OTA, you have it in your PMS. Availability synchronization issues. We've got a lot of people who've got synchronization issues, and everybody blames everybody else that the iCal doesn't work, they don't pull, they don't push, the TripAdvisor link doesn't work. It's a nightmare. Property data structures. Eric made a very good point this morning about this. There's no standardized schema, so every OTA and every PMS and every website has some form of differentiated schema, and it's a nightmare to work with. Property information can be modified by the site. Pricing can be modified by the site. I saw one from Agoda the other day that was marked up 100% and discounted by 90%. It looked like a really good deal, except it's still more expensive than going direct. Reviews, you know, we've all got reviews, but you've got a review on Airbnb, you've got a review on TripAdvisor, you've got a review on your own website, you've got a review on HomeAway, you've got a review on Expedia, you've got a review everywhere. How's it going to work? Booking exchange information, a lot of systems don't do that very well. Mediated communication, Steve Milo's been into that. And then there's the fees, and everybody's talking about the margin and the squeezing of the margin. So let me propose something to you. The harder it gets for an OTA to market, the more money they have to spend to get the eyeballs, to get these people's eyeballs to come and make a booking. So you've got Booking.com, Airbnb, Expedia, HomeAway, TripAdvisor all throwing mountains of money at this. So it's a money game. Where do you think the money is going to come from to pay for that? It's going to come from the contractors, or it's going to come from the guests. Guests are not that stupid. Eventually, the price gets too high, they start thinking differently. But there's going to be a lot of pain in here. So as we move forward, I'll get into the opportunities in a minute, but what's holding you back from using all sorts of different ways of marketing that is not an OTA, that gives you more control over your business and more outlets? It's who's got a hold of the data. So who uses a PMS here? Okay, what do you use? Sorry? Freezy. SuperControl. Tabs. Okay, right. So you've got 4 different PMSs. None of them match in terms of data. Vanessa over there is hooked to about 300 of these things. 60, okay. So she knows the data elements because they only talk to a channel manager currently, and it's the only way you're going to get these things hooked into an OTA effectively if you want to do all of them at the same time. So this is part of the thing. These market forces will affect your decisions, and I'm quite passionate about parts of this. We've heard Airbnb as the sharing market. You know, they highlighted the sharing market. If you pay for something, it's not actually sharing in my eyes. It's still a product. But I think if everybody adopts a new stance on how they work together, it could be a lot easier. The guests are changing their habits and expectations. I've gone from being a manager who was desperately worried about my owners because they're on the phone every day complaining they didn't have as many bookings as last year and they wanted to up their prices, but they didn't want to buy a new mattress, and why the hell should they pay that much for cleaning? And I'm not going to decorate for the next 5 years. And what do they mean? I'm happy with that. So I completely lost sight of the guest. So the guest is the one everybody's focused on, and I'd lost sight of the guest, and these people are changing their attitudes. I slap my children around a lot for using mobile phones and booking everything. I don't care if I book on Airbnb, Dad. I don't care if I pay 12% extra. It's frictionless. It's seamless. It's beautiful. They don't speak to anybody. It's really quite disturbing. So you have all these things, better price comparisons. You'll see decreasing hardware costs, which is coming up in a few slides. And you'll see new marketing outlets and opportunities. So there's lots of ways you can do this. I can't play you this because we've had a technical issue, but this is the Expedia Alexa app. So when you get the presentation, play it, because essentially this lady checks the flight details, she gets it all pushed to her phone, she books a car online, and everything's really hunky-dory. This is coming. I have Alexas in my house, I have Google Homes, I have all this sort of stuff. I don't use them as effectively as I could, but it's coming. So this to me is going to change the world completely. So there's some stats there I pulled up. Now this isn't vacation rentals. This isn't even tourism. This is general overview of all voice search activity. So if there's really 50% of searches by 2020 which are voice, it's going to change everything we do. 30% without a screen. We all know that Alexa and everything's now got screens coming on. Billion searches per month. Yeah, 65% of people can't imagine going back to not having one. My son wrote an app which hooked into our management system, so Alexa would actually go, "Another booking!" Like that. It's great. wasn't great, but I mean, it wasn't very practical, but it made everybody feel good, you know. 42% say quickly become an essential in their lives. So how many people have got an Alexa? How many of you use it for checking the weather? Yeah, everybody's got one. So these are the things, or opportunities and things that are going to possibly cause problems for the OTAs, but give you opportunities to step sideways and move laterally as time moves on. Voice search, I think, is going to be a massive game changer. Okay. So these are some of the things that we've seen. So we've got brand challenges. Hotels have been bleating on for years about OTAs and how much money they take out of the system. The days of 3%, 5%, when everybody was friendly and everything worked really nicely, has gone way by the board. You're now up to possibly 30% more in some of these OTAs in certain situations. That's TripTease at the top. TripTease provides a plugin for hotel sites that goes and scours the OTAs to get the price, and then shows you what the price is on the OTA and the price on your own website, and then highlights the fact this is a much better route to doing your bookings. Book Direct. So Amy got a lot of traction out of Book Direct, hashtag Book Direct. I was really surprised, actually, how much movement that got online. And I've heard a lot of people talking about it. This wasn't really part of my full presentation, but the more and more I look at it, the more and more I begin to think that there is an opportunity for, and I'm big into collaboration and cooperatives, there's a big opportunity for people in the industry to actually contribute to that and to get some form of professional communication into the industry. So we wouldn't do it. I'd happily pay 100 quid and stick the brand on the Rentivo website to say we're supporting Book Direct. Use that money with a PR company or something. And if we did enough of us did that, I think we get a lot of movement. So we can all talk about that later over a wine if you want. We have this niche market focus, and I've picked a few things out for various reasons. So Jez mentioned Love Cottages. Was it yesterday? Today, this morning, I think. That's a collaboration of 50 managers, 14,000 properties, and it's all an inquiry-based system, and everybody works together, and it works. I put Dorma Alondra out there because she's a customer of ours, and it's fascinating because she only focuses on Italians. So from my perspective, it's not the best market to focus on. But because of the way she does it, she has an enormous amount of traction, and she's Italian, and that's a language play. If you can do a language play, you can be well ahead of the game, because how many of you OTAs are actually in a foreign language when they're searched? Very few, realistically. And if otherwise, they use Google. I picked out Florida Rentals, first one I came to, destination site, ranked #1 from what I could see. I don't know anything about it, but it's a local destination site. Mr. B&B, fairly sizable investment. If you've got gay properties, maybe you want to put it on there. I'm a bit confused, because every property's a gay property, really. So maybe it's just a play on the brand and marketing. Clan Venture is a small family site in the States who focuses on family with a well-curated portfolio. And the Plum Guide's a new player in town. That's a One Fine Stay type play and an Airbnb Plus. So they've gone very top end, 250-point check. You know, everything is done at the expensive end of the market. So again, it's another niche. Now we got new business models. We're in the fortunate position, because of all the companies we deal with, of hearing all these fantastic new ideas that come through. And I've heard some crazy ones over the years too, some really, really crazy ones. My favorite is reverse auctions. I love that, you know. I've got somebody bidding £2 for your property tonight. Well, it's not going to happen, is it? You know? So we've got blockchain. I'm not going to get into blockchain. I'm happy to talk about it. I'm not technical. I do understand the basics and the theories of decentralized ledgers and all that sort of stuff. And Rentivo is a partner of 2 of these companies. And the reason we're a partner of 2 of these companies, as I'm sure Vanessa probably is as well, is that they will hit marketplaces, and they've had, I think B-Token did about 5 million a couple of weeks ago. Wine83 did 12 million on their ICOs a few weeks ago. These guys will be looking for inventory. And if they actually get it together, there's still an issue between tokens, coins, bitcoins, and fiat currencies, sterling, euros, dollars. If you can meld those 2 together, you might well find yourself with marketplaces that actually cost you virtually nothing in terms of commissions. It'll be beautiful if it happens, but we'll see. Travel guides, that's our young man down the front here, which is a new play. And collaborative funding and investing. Simon mentioned that there are businesses looking at coming into this market, acquiring large volumes of properties. In fact, we had a conversation a little earlier. They're certainly doing it in the service market, but they're also beginning to look at doing it within the vacation rental space. So a big company comes in, chucks 50, 100 million at properties, does top end, curates it, automates everything. You could find a whole new brand of player in your space fairly soon. We know Airbnb are leasing, and they're doing deals with companies in the States to market properties which are allowing sharing and stuff. And you've got the big influences. You've got Google. I'm still pretty convinced Google is going to step into this space. I know everybody says, why would you get rid of how many, 8 billion or whatever it was that they get revenue from the OTAs, but you know, at the end of the day, they could easily hoover that up if they really wanted to. Google's the monster that sits around all of this, of course. And I stuck Amazon in because Amazon's probably got more data on people on the planet than anybody else. They have tried to get into this sector, and they're very unsuccessful a few years ago with their business model, but they could well enter this space. So, why does this help vacation rental businesses? Well, it shows you there are new opportunities. I mean, that's just a small segment of the stuff you can find out there. If you've got local stuff, you've got language stuff, you've got aggregated stuff, you can do your social, you can do all sorts of things. Can you adapt to these opportunities? Well, no, you can't, actually. Well, you can, but it's incredibly difficult. I expect a lot of you are sitting out there and you go back to the office and you manually curate stuff online. You're logging into places all the time. You're changing prices and wondering why this doesn't work and that doesn't work. So it's really difficult. And it's because most of these data systems are completely dysfunctional. It's not deliberate. It's just what has happened. And it's really frustrating for people. I love this guy. He's dead now, but he's just a genius. And this is the problem. So you're all sitting there with property management systems, and you've all got your properties in it. And those PMSs will push to an OTA. They might push via Rentals United to an OTA via a channel manager. And the OTAs will provide the third-party services because they've got all the data. Everybody's pushed to them. They got everything. So you're missing out on third-party services. The PMS systems will determine what third-party services you can have. So you are at the mercy of your PMS supplier. No, it's not a criticism. It's just the way life is. So anybody who's using a PMS, it's a very useful tool. It's better than a spreadsheet, and it's certainly better than doing it on paper. But there's this data exchange happening right now in a massive level. And I'm talking huge data exchanges going on between everybody. So what can you do? And this is, you know, Martin Luther said, I have a dream, or I had a dream, but I didn't put that quote up. I prefer Thomas Edison's opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. And whatever we do is going to take a lot of work. So we've got a whole bunch of dysfunctional data exchange systems. We've got OTAs which are spending an enormous amount of money who've got all your data, which gives them the opportunity to bleed the guest of more money to remarket to them. And I've heard so many conversations this time about get an OTA to remarket and to get your customer, and then go back and remarket to them. How many customers come back to you year on year? In urban, it must be in single digits. Unless, like Steve Marley, you've got places, or if you've got businesses all over the place. I don't know what it is for you, Jez. When we had a management company, it was probably 20%. So 20, yeah. So 80% of those customers you've lost forever anyway. Wouldn't it be better to have those customers up front rather than lose the margin that's been given away? So this is the solution. I don't have this solution, okay? We have variations of this solution with partners. If you had a single data center where you put your property information, your pricing, and your availability, if all of you in the room had the same data in the same place, and you weren't paying a huge amount of money for it, you're paying 5p, 10p a month or something like this because it's a data silo, and that data could be accessed by any entrepreneurial spirit or marketplace with policies attached. So they say, I've created. Can you imagine the amount of young people coming out of university right now who've got fantastic ideas? And this is a blockchain issue. We've got great ideas. We can use this for social media marketing. We can reach guests directly. I don't know how they do it, but I'm sure there's people out there. And when I talk to these people, they say, I've got one problem. What's that? I can't get any data. I can't get any properties. Well, go off to a PMS. Oh, give me it. If you had it in a single place with policies attached, you could make your own decisions, and it wouldn't cost you anything to put it in there. You can still push it back to a PMS for your booking information, your finance management, and everything else. And it's a bit like a channel manager, but it's on a larger scale. That way, the third-party services can be determined by you, and where you distribute can be determined by you, and all those opportunities coming on for new marketplaces, for new technologies, for voice search. I mean, what do you think is going to happen with voice search? Airbnb and Expedia, they're just going to walk away with it. I'm going to be lying in bed with my wife on a Sunday morning, and it's pouring with rain, And she's going to say, God, I need a holiday. So you had one last year. No, we're going to say, Alexa, find me a villa in Crete on the beach. And Alexa will punt it up onto our screen in the bedroom. And I've got a selection for you here. Yeah, 4 bedrooms. We'll go with friends. You know what the budget is. It's already the same as last year. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Can you show me the prices? Yeah. List the prices. Okay, can you just do a 24-hour reserve on it for me? Use the credit card. Yeah, done. No problem. Can you book me a car too from the airport, etc.? It will happen. And your opportunity is to be at the head of the game when they say, what's the best price? Because if your property is there from this data silo, you're the one who's going to get the booking. Because Alexa's going to say, well, this one is 50 quid cheaper. And you get a free welcome basket, and you get picked up from the airport. If you don't do it, if this sort of thing doesn't happen, everybody's going to be still trapped in independent silos all the time. And my worry is that I'm happy to share stuff with anybody, try to avoid stepping on anybody's feet. I'm worried that there are companies who say, well, this is my data. I'm not letting this data go. No, I'm not sharing it with you, really, because you might just nick it. But it's not the way to go. So, don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's a really foolish idea. Look forward to what you can possibly do. And if you do get the opportunity to talk tech and distribution with people, just pass the message. It'd be really cool if everybody was prepared to share data in some way and open up the opportunities to the new people coming on board who can do the most with it. That's it. Short, sweet. Questions? Come on, somebody ask me a question. Antonio.
Yeah.
You can't, yeah. Okay.
I'll try to speak loud. I heard the other day the stats that you were giving about currently 20% of search done on Google or are done by voice. By 2010, it will be 50%.
Yeah.
The thing that was interesting when I heard the stat was that they were saying that the search that are done, but the words used in voice search are way different than how you type the search.
That's correct, yeah.
So the keywords will be different to find.
Yeah, I think you and I probably look at it far too simply as well. So you're going to chuck in artificial intelligence. Google's got its AI team reading 3,000 romance novels at the moment. So it's beginning to understand emotion. It's beginning to take all the nuances and things and begin to understand. I mean, it is going to happen. It is honestly going to happen. You won't know who you're speaking to in 5 to 10 years' time. It will probably be a machine. You could even have a hologram. It could be Star Wars type stuff, Alexa will just appear in front of you, and you'll just speak to her, and she'll just throw up a villa into the air, and you can go skiing here, you can go pike fishing in Canada, and all sorts of stuff. Honestly, it's going to change. I'm glad I'm out of it as a manager. Yes, Vanessa. Yes.
So it doesn't exist yet.
Well.
Is there anything
yes.
we don't know?
We're connected to Rentals United, and we're doing more connections to you. I don't know if you know, but we are. Channel managers take from a PMS and they push to an OTA. That's the traditional model. Okay, and the reason they're there is if you want to connect to 200 marketplaces, it's a horribly, horribly difficult thing to do. Somebody has to sit there and maintain the APIs, and you have to have servers with sufficient data capacity, et cetera, et cetera. A thing like a data center can do a lot more than just push to an OTA. You can push data to web builders. So if there's web builders who say, I want to build websites for vacation rental industry, they can tap into that data center and say, they could do some marketing, and the person might say, well, my data's in the data center. And they go, well, it's fine. give me the credentials, I'll pull them into the site, and we can go live straight like that. So you can do web stuff as well. The Love Codger stuff I put up, that's an aggregation. And that's another example of something somebody mentioned this morning. Kigo, when they first started, how many years ago it was, had a module in the back end whereby you could share properties between managers. Now, it sounds like a fantastic idea, except that there was managers in Zermatt saying, oh, I think I can possibly book properties in the Highlands of Scotland. So they were sharing them on their websites, which really doesn't work because you've got no traction. And when people visit your site, they go, well, this doesn't make sense. So conceptually, it was probably a really good idea, but it wasn't based on any granular approach to the marketing. So if you've got a like-minded group of people, and let's say you want to focus on disabled people, which is could be an incredibly lucrative market for somebody if they get it right, but it's very complicated. And if all of you had 5 disabled properties, that data center could take everybody's 5 disabled properties, and you could all collaborate together on a single disabled site, which could even run on a blockchain because the data center just provides the data. It doesn't do anything else. It's just an exchange mechanism. So yeah, we play with it. We've got stuff which is kind of cool. So yeah. Any more questions? Otherwise, off to wine, I guess. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Francis.
No, give him the choice.
Sorry.
I totally agree with you about what you say about who controls the data, controls the customer. There's no doubt about it. It's been proved in many cases. Would I take it that you believe the new central object, whatever we were to call it,
Yeah.
could be fulfilled in part or in whole with blockchain technologies?
It could be fulfilled in part. So there's a lot spoken about blockchain. If you want to raise money, you just stick the word blockchain on the back of it, and people just start throwing coins at you. So storing photographs and intensive data like that, no, but there's plenty of places you can store that essentially free of charge. So a decentralized marketplace using blockchain ledger for bookings hooked to the data center would work, definitely, as well. It would be one of the nodes that actually has the real uptime data on that. I mean, I don't know if anybody noticed on here, on the bottom of that last slide, I stuck Amazon equals the data center. Just imagine if Amazon, with its Amazon servers, which is like 25% of the world's servers, says, well, we could become a data center. We could control the entire infrastructure. It's quite a scary thought.
Well, that sort of leads on to a second question, and that is, the concept is right. The difficulty is obviously, as you're well aware, in the execution, and you'd need to have one. Kind of the model requires one. There's already lots of blockchains.
Well, it requires one, or it requires something like a blockchain with a decentralized distribution.
One blockchain as opposed to,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's already competing blockchains.
There is.
How
Well, there's decentralized ledgers, though. So, I mean, if you decentralized it, you'd have the same data everywhere. You'd have a timing issue, of course, and a data distribution issue, particularly when you're talking to photographs and things, but you're accessing those from a single point. So you could decentralize it, have it on separate nodes, and it could sit everywhere.
yeah.
It's just the theory. So, theory and a little bit of practical. So, okay, done? Thank you, everybody.